Happy snow day, everybody. The snow is coming. The snow is coming. Be forewarned and beware. I've opened this up to the notes that are in the shared drive. Sample mean when sample size is greater than 30, confidence interval. Sample mean when size is less than 30, and then proportion. These are your confidence intervals. It's sample mean plus or minus the margin of error for all of them. Notice you see that's the same thing. It's just that here it's a sample proportion plus or minus the margin of error. Let me put that in there. And then your margin of error is going to be different for each of these problems. It's differently calculated. For the proportion one, it's the square root of PQ over N. You're looking up your Z and you start with sample proportion. This, you're using the T that we looked up times the standard deviation for your margin of error. And for the sample mean, where the sample size is greater than 30, it's just Z times your standard deviation. And remember, this standard deviation for both of these, I should write that, the standard deviation is the old standard divided by the square root of N. That's true for both of the sample mean calculations. And this one, when you have a sample size less than 30, remember you gotta look your T up, the T chart. So I'm gonna go over the questions that I gave you yesterday. I told you I was gonna send you help, and I didn't. So I'll give you today to work on that too, and then you can use this as your help. So let's take a look at those. You're head of the polling company. The burning question of the day is how has Trump's approval rating fared with the Republican Party? You take a sample of 122 Republicans, your sample size, so you took 120 of them, so that's your sample size. And 80 think T is the greatest, so your proportion would be 80 out of 120. You want to create a 90% confidence interval. So we're going to do a confidence interval for proportion. For the proportion, you see it tells me right here, it's for the proportion of our Republic. So it's a proportion, so it's going to be my sample proportion plus or minus my margin of error. Because we know that comes from here. So here's my notes. I need this. And we might as well take all this with you, right? So whenever you're doing these problems, you can take everything with you from the notes, stick it in. Some proportion is a number over the number in the total. We did that 80 of 120. Z, we got to look up. So we're going to use my Z chart. My Z chart is in classwork, distributions, and Z chart. So I'm looking that up. Oh, wait, this is not the confidence interval one. Okay, I make mistakes. I want confidence intervals. There we go. Maybe you did the same thing I did. We need a C for this. So let's take a look at our question. This is at what level? 90%. All right, so my C equals 90%. Everything I'm getting from there, sample proportion, we're going to start with is 80 over 120. We're going to minus this margin of error. So the margin of error is my Z. Well, this doesn't look good. Let me change that. Hold on a second, guys. It's supposed to be over. It's supposed to be this one. Did it not come over correctly? What happened? All right, let me see if I can get that over correctly. It's not giving me my formula. I need a formula fraction. So this is going to be PQ over N. And I need another formula. Square root. Insert equation. Sorry, everybody. So it looks like if you do try to do that, oh, stuff is gone. Man, equation. I don't know, something's not working in here. So I'm just gonna put square root. And we'll put it in parentheses. Don't forget, it's the square root of PQ over N, where P is this proportion, 80 over 120. Q is 1 minus P, and N is the sample size. All right, so this is my sample proportion, my margin of error, equal to Z at 90%. So we look that up on the chart. Which would be here 90%, 1.645. So it's 1.645. Here's my Z, right? Times. Now I need the square root. So P 80 over 120. Let's bring up the calculator. So I'm going to do 80. Does anybody know what that is? Divided by 120. 0.6666666 maybe. So we'll round that to 0.67. 0.67 times 0.33. That would be Q. All right. So if P equals 0.67, Q equals 1 minus 0.67, which equals 0.33. And we said N was 120. And then we take the square root of that. Divided by 120. And I need to take the square root of that. 0.043. We'll call that. So this will be times 0.043, which would equal 1.645 times 0.043. So we're going to do this times this. 1.645 times 0.043, and my margin of error is 0.07. So it's this minus 0.07. And we said that 80 divided by 120 is 0.67. And then 0.67 plus 0.07. So this confidence interval would be 0.60 to 0.74. And I am 90% confident. We're 90% sure that the actual proportion of Republicans that still think Trump is the greatest, even after the insurrection, is somewhere between 60, let me try as an interval, 0.60 and 0.74, 16 to 74%. So he still has a good approval rating over 50. All right. For these ones are very similar. For 2, we're going to check the sample size. It's 49. So you would be doing this if you were to look at the notes. You're using sample size is greater than, so you're just going to get your sample mean and your margin of error. So you got to use your Z like we just did times the standard deviation, which would be old standard. So you would need all this if you're doing that one. So this is what I need. So notes, I'm just going there to the notes. My standard deviation is the old standard. Let's say standard, let's start with that, equals the old standard, which is 7, divided by the square root of n, and your n is 49. Take a sample of 49 weeks. Square root of 49. So that would be this piece. In a 95% interval, so you're going to look your z up. I'll let you do that. Z at 95%. You're going to multiply those two to get your margin of error. Then you're going to start with your sample mean, which is 42. And you're going to plus or minus that. This one, you're taking 6 candy bars. Take a sample of 6. So when I take a sample of less than 30, there's a slight change. We can look at that. I need this. I'm taking a sample of less than 30. So here's the stuff I need. You're taking to create 95% confidence interval. Now, we're going to do the standard deviation is going to be 4 divided by the square root of 6. But here we have to use the t-chart. So the t-chart is back in classwork. We're not using this one. We're using the t-chart and the confidence level on the t-chart you will see on the top. We want it 90 here, level of confidence. We want 95%. What is degrees of freedom? Degrees of freedom is the sample size minus 1. So I want to look at degrees of freedom of 6 minus 1, which would be 5, and then at 95%. So 5 and then 95%. 5 degrees of freedom. 5 degrees of freedom at 95%. Boom, 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 5. So that would be 2.571. All right, so you're going to use that for margin of error, but still do the same thing, sample mean plus or minus margin of error. All right, so that's today's work. Do your best and make up anything that is missing, because I'm going to be taking away the stuff out of the saved work folder today. Au revoir. So long, farewell, auf Wiedersehen, adieu, adieu, adieu to you and you and you. Goodbye.